and welcome to a new format onto this channel, the voiced ASMR format, to help you relax before going to sleep. We have quite an interesting game here, in between the two pro players, spawning in the upper right, in the purple, it's JEADONG, and his opponent spawning in the lower right, in the teal, it's Flash, both of them with their barcode AKs here, a 4 spawning location map, and a quite interesting engagement here in between two of the legends of Starcraft Broodwar. We do have the production tab in the upper left part, in case I'm missing something. Let's have a look at their build orders, as Flash is opening up here with his supply depot into barracks, perhaps to defend his early expansion. Let's have a quick look at JEADONG, who seems to be going for a fast expansion build order. So Overlord into expansion here for JEADONG, as he's also scouting here the map. Same can be said for Flash, who is also scouting the map. And they do meet here in the middle of the map. Let's have a look at their reaction. As you can see from the timer, it's quite a long replay, and the action-filled replay here in between them. Great micro early on with the SCV and the drone, as the SCV will now scout the main from JEADONG in order to see if it's going to be a tier 2 upgrade very soon here for the Zerg. Many Zergs really like to go for the tier 2 upgrade at this time, so Flash knows now that it is very likely going to be a mutalisk harassment by the opponent. JEADONG is of course known for his mutalisk micro and his great abusive gameplay. So let's have a look quick at Flash, who is mining some gas. So very likely he's going to be going into some factories sooner or later. Either that or his starport could also be a good idea for him. Mass marines with medics would also be a good answer towards the incoming mutalisk. Currently we have 20 workers for Flash and 18 for JEADONG, as the SCV is still roaming around, seeing the spire from the opponent. So very soon he's going to transition into some engineering bay and turrets to defend his main and his expansion. Either that, or he could go for some Goliaths. I do have a replay here onto this channel where Flash is going mass Goliaths versus the Zergs. A new tactic by him, and quite a successful tactic for the Terran Pro. Nice wall off by him. A great SimCity build order for the Terran, making it impossible here for JEADONG to attack. And very soon JEADONG will launch the first wave of mutalisk towards his opponent. There is another expansion quite far away from the main nice mind game by him, selecting this location right here, quite far away from his main bases, as the first mutalisk are getting spawned, and the fire upgrade has been cancelled as he's going for a flyer carrier base. An interesting decision here for the Zerg legend. Let's have a look what those mutalisk can do versus the defense from Flash. Turrets are up, but it's just 2 of them. As in comes the first wave of mutalisk from JEADONG with Zerglings. Good harassment here by JEADONG, as one supply depot has been sniped. Let's see how much economic damage he can do versus Flash. But the Valkyrie is here ready to respond. Great micro here by both players, as 2 mutalisk, I believe, have been sniped by the Valkyrie. So this is the answer for Flash versus the mutalisk gameplay by his opponent. And with that, Flash with quite a convincing defense versus his opponent. JEADONG might try to transition into some lurker or Hydralisk gameplay, as the replay is very long. Some defilers with Ultralisk could also be a good idea versus the Terran. The Terran could go for some mech into the late game. Tanks with vultures have proven to be quite strong for the Terrans into the late game. Let's have a look what Flash can do with his move out versus the first expansion point here from JEADONG. Some Sunkens already here, so a good initiative by Flash, forcing JEADONG to invest some minerals into those Sunkens. At the same time, a good map awareness for Flash. He just needs to be careful against the Scourge, as 1, even 2 Valkyries have been sniped. Flash is now taking the initiative and is moving forward towards the expansion point by JEADONG. But there's 3 Sunkens here, so JEADONG should be okay. Nice scan by Flash, as he's now realizing that he has to regroup and find another target. JEADONG with some outstanding mutalisk micro, having still a large number of mutalisk for him, inflicting good damage against the opponent. Let's have a look at his main, as we see a queen's nest for him. The mutalisk have arrived once again, but there's a Valkyrie in the air ready to respond. Very soon we will reach the 10-minute mark, as the Valkyrie has been sniped by the Scourge. So very soon Flash might be exposed into this location. Luckily for him, his reinforcements have arrived in time. But JEADONG with a quite outstanding mutalisk gameplay, forcing Flash to defend, forcing him to stay back at home. At the same time, finally, a vulture is out onto the map, trying to keep JEADONG at bay, trying to keep him home as well. So many mines have been planted here by Flash. science vessel, irradiating all of those mutalisk. Actually, only one. Always a good unit to have towards the middle of the game, even towards the end game, as now Flash is securing his expansion point at the 6 o'clock position. Mutalisk will try to snipe the SCV and are successful, but with that they will of course be fended off very soon by Flash. However, this has bought so much time for the Zerg player, as Flash is sending out another SCV to build this expansion, and at the same time he has enabled another expansion towards this location. The same can be said here for JEADONG, who is expanding in the upper left part with a double hatchery build order. Overlords have been upgraded, speed has been done, so we might see a drop happening very soon towards the main from Flash, who is going towards mass factories. So quite an interesting decision here for the Terran player. Always opting to go for mech into the late game versus the Zergs. Mutalisk to control the air very nicely. There is still a lot of bio here for Flash, but he might try to suicide them in order to gain more of a mech supply, more tanks, more vultures. Great irradiance now getting used, as it's very hard here for JEADONG to out-micro it. And in the meantime, Flash even taking yet another expansions. So quite a great macro game here by Flash. The same can be said, of course, for JEADONG, who is also nicely connecting his expansion with the Nidus network. In the meantime, more mines are getting planted here by Flash, as he slowly but steadily moving here forward towards the expansion point from his opponent. Zerglings are getting sent out as the vultures will take some damage, and now we finally see the response here by JEADONG, the Defiler with the Dark Swarm. However, Flash could cancel this expansion right here, so very good move by him. Even Plague has been used against the bio. At the same time, vultures once again trying to keep the Zerg at bay, trying to inflict good splash damage versus the Zerglings. And now the Defiler shows of course his strengths versus the bio from the opponent. Worker wise, we do have more workers here for Flash versus JEADONG. However, JEADONG with a very healthy 60 worker count and a nice economy for him, as he retakes the 12 o'clock position. And we did indeed pass the 50-minute mark. So still anyone's game. Still quite an interesting macro game and a great transition by both players actually. This mine nicely following those Zerglings. So Flash just showing us the strengths of the vultures onto the ground versus the bio from JEADONG. But I think that very soon we might see indeed some Ultralisk gameplay by JEADONG. Actually 9 Ultralisk are getting produced here from him. So very strong and deadly tactic by the Zerg player. Ultralisk with Defilers devastating in the late game versus the mech from Flash. Another expansion is being set up here by JEADONG, as both players try to regain the control of the middle of the map. Flash with so many vultures in the front, as the tanks are staying back to secure the expansion points from the Terran. Let's have a look when or if JEADONG is going to decide to attack with his upgraded units, as he has to first clear the mines on the ground, which has been laid by his opponent. And yes, very soon we will reach the 20-minute mark. All of a sudden, Flash into a quite dominating position as he's moving forward towards the expansion point from his opponent. Both players are actually maxed out, and there's the response by JEADONG. Ultralisk with Zerglings, no defiler needed for him, as the Ultralisk are moving forward towards the tank, dealing massive amounts of damage. Flash will hold, but at what cost? He has lost so many tanks, as the reinforcements are pouring forward here for JEADONG. And remember, he didn't even use the Dark Swarm. It would have been a different outcome with Dark Swarm here for JEADONG. So quite a strong first attack here by JEADONG, as another wave of Zerglings are being brought forward with the Ultralisk in the back. Even some overlords might drop some Zerglings here. Let's have a look what exactly is going to happen, as JEADONG keeps on delivering strong punches versus his opponent, versus Flash, and more units are getting sniped here as the Ultralisk are doing a great job. Flash dropping to 130 supply versus 150 from JEADONG. I guess JEADONG is going to start using some defilers to give more tankiness and more protection towards his Ultralisk on Zerglings onto the ground. We're about to find out if this is indeed the decision by him, as some vultures are trying, of course, to inflict damage towards the economy from JEADONG. Wave after wave is getting launched here by JD versus the opponent, as the Zerglings are clearing the mines on the ground in order to prepare another attack for his units. Even some drones are being left here for JD. But let's not forget that Flash still has so many bases. However, right now JD had 73 workers versus 68 from Flash. And we do have indeed a response by Flash. He's moving forward with his tanks towards a quite exposed expansion point from the opponent. However, we do have defilers ready to engage for JD. Dark Swarm has been casted. Yet another Dark Swarm. Even lurkers are here ready to respond, as JEADONG seems to be able to clear this massive attack by Flash. So quite a strong response by him, as now the reinforcements are arriving for Flash. This army group is very likely going to attack very soon this quite exposed expansion here by Flash, tries of course to inflict as much damage as he can towards the ground unit from his opponent. But JEADONG just keeps on sending wave after wave of Ultralisk with Zerglings, and now the Ultralisk will be able to surround the tanks and deal so much damage towards them. Nevertheless, Flash is holding his ground and seems to be gaining the momentum. However, now we do have some queens in the air, inflicting damage towards the tanks, clearing the path with their broodlings onto the ground, towards the Zerglings and towards the Ultralisk. So wave after wave is getting sent out of Zerglings with Ultralisk, now towards another expansion point from Flash. So what a great decision here by JEADONG to go for queens. However, there's so many tanks onto the high ground here for Flash, as JEADONG might try to go for a different target very soon. Having forces all over the map, Flash is now being forced to defend, to stay at home, even using defensive matrix onto his own tanks. As you can see on the minimap, wave after wave once again is getting sent out here by JEADONG with upgraded Zerglings and Ultralisk. Tanks are also maximum upgraded here for Flash, as slowly but steadily more units are getting lost here for Flash versus the Scourge from JEADONG, as mass amounts of Zerglings will just keep on pouring here forward for JD, and the mines are a little bit late here for Flash, as now the Zerglings will gain some good connections towards the tanks from Flash, and this Defiler playing an important role as well, giving so much support with the Dark Swarm. Great surrounds once again here by JEADONG versus Flash, as more and more units are getting poured forward towards the opponent. Slowly but steadily we go towards the end game. Let's see if Flash can somehow come back. It's still anyone's game. Those tanks are nicely upgraded, as they get a good connection now towards the expansion point from the opponent. Queens, however, are ready to respond, immediately clearing those tanks. At the same time, a small group of units are pouring forward towards a not that well defended base from Flash. So all of a sudden, JEADONG having the initiative. Let's see if he's ready to defend his expansion here as well, as Flash has to uplift one of his expansions, and this one is also quite exposed. So JEADONG all of a sudden taking the initiative, forcing Flash to uplift his bases, and with that now having the economic advantage against the opponent. Even the queens are pulling forward, giving support towards JEADONG, and with that I think that JEADONG might have done it here. His Zerglings are now getting connections against the SCVs from Flash, as yet another expansion might be abandoned very soon. And yes, indeed, there is the GG from Flash, as those Zerglings backed up by queens were all over the place. And yeah, the Scourge from JEADONG proving to be much stronger than his opponent. So this time Flash not being able to resist versus the onslaught from the things with Ultralisk. Not that many defilers for him, however. A very interesting and a very nice game by both players. This time, however, JEADONG proving to be much stronger than his opponent, than Flash, with a quite convincing strategy and a mass production of Zerglings with Ultralisk. Let's have a look at the stats, in case you guys are interested. What a great game by both players. This time the mech strategy didn't work out for Flash, as JEADONG playing very convincingly and proving to be much stronger than his opponent. Perhaps some battle cruisers could have been a good idea for Flash. Even some drops could have been a good idea, with some vultures and some tanks. But yeah, a very good game by both players. Quite a long replay here from them. I hope you guys enjoyed this new format onto the channel. Remember, it's just for people struggling with sleep.